Here we're going to go through Lydian uses and various feels, and this is not a keyboard lesson, bear that in mind. This is just getting to the bare essentials of what Lydian can sound like, and we're just teaching it off of the keyboard. I'm a guitar player, so and some things we're going to do at bare minimum because of YouTube's copyright thing, so I found that out the hard way. So let's get started. One of the most comical themes is the Simpsons theme, okay? And you basically... Very Lydian melody, okay? And his backing is actually interesting because he's playing this tritone move, which adds to the comicalness and adding this kind of Lydian chord, you could call it, if you want, the C, E, and F sharp. If you ever heard of Bartok's The Wooden Prince, it literally starts out with this voice, and jazz musicians prefer to call it the Lydian chord. And you use whatever definition you want, C major, sharp 4, whatever. But it literally builds up off of that chord for almost a minute, so maybe even longer. So go listen to that. Major and mixing Lydian. That's something John Williams likes to do. Let me see. Yoda's theme does this. Lydian, very minimalistic version, okay? Lydian 2, and then here he goes major 2. And now we're not gonna bother explaining the other chords because it has nothing to do with Lydian. So just 1 2 1 2 and then 1 major 2. So these mixing of these two scales is favored by John Williams. I could think of another example is E.T., where his opening statement is in major, and then the second statement's in C Lydian. Then he goes back to C major. Then he starts using stuff like chromatic medians and stuff, which literally leave Lydian. So it's a temporary thing. And I've actually used this before in D major and D Lydian mixture, kind of, and I'll play it for you. I did that as a kind of a demo thing for, but it's in D Lydian. And then I switched it to the major 2, and then used chromatic neighbor tones, but that's still doesn't change the fact that it's now D major. And then back to D Lydian. D major. So you can intermix the two for that very uplifting effect. Kind of a majestic feel. Anakin's theme from John Williams. It's just 1 2 1 2 of Lydian until we get to this point right there. He kind of jumped out of there for a second, but we're not going to explain that other chord. It's just 1 2 1 2 1 2, and then jumps away from the actual Lydian scale and substitutes this chord in here. I'm not going to talk about that right now because that's not what this is about. Temporary Lydian. So John Williams is very fond of temporary Lydian. Here's another one I can think of. This one's very simple. Lord of the Rings, I believe. I don't remember which movie. So it's actually that simple, just a bunch of parallel fifths and Lydian. So just Lydian 1, 2, and 3, and I should probably be careful about exact parts like I did with Anakin's theme and whatnot. So let's Michael Jackson's Human Nature, okay? The verse just, I'm not going to play it exact for that very reason. It just alternates between 1 and 2 of Lydian, okay? the verse literally just alternates between 1 and 2. And then it changes, then it goes right back into that 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 over and over again. And with popular music, I'm avoiding exactness, but the change up goes 1 7 flat 7 6 flat 7 2 dominant 11, and then it just goes back into repeating 1 2 1 2 1 2 over and over again until it gets to that transition part again. Parallel chords with sevenths. I'll play something for you that I did a while ago. There's a string part from something I have, so very nice sound, lovely sound. It's just parallel chords. So parallelism. 1 major 7th, 3 flat 7, 2 7 flat 7 of Lydian, 1 major 7th, 3 flat 7, 2. Don't be afraid of parallelism. In fact, let's make something with parallelism just so. So you can just repeat that. The point is that, okay, we'll stop there. The point is that we could use parallelism and upper extensions and whatnot in 7th chorus. 1 major 7th, 7 flat 7, 1 major 7th, 7 flat 7 of Lydian, and then 7 flat 7, 6 flat 7, 9, 7 flat 7, and then repeat. So parallelism and upper extensions and sevenths. Nice sound. So texture on texture. This is the way I prefer to see it. I'll play it first. The good thing about being able to use your own is you don't get copyright problems. So right here, Lydian has a very dreamy sound. So the way I prefer to see this is kind of a E flat, just static, and then I'm playing these various parallel chords, kind of like a texture on top of a texture. Now the way I think when I'm doing parts like this is I see this upper half as a completely separate texture as the lower half. The lower half has that E flat, the upper half has these parallel chords. And the only way I can do this is to arpeggiate. So this is the part reduced to piano. And I don't get copyrighted for doing my own stuff, so think in terms of one texture, the E flat, over the top of parallel chords up top, as a separate texture. If you want to look at it, try to name every specific move as a new chord and whatnot, you can do that. It would be a complete and total overkill in my honest opinion. I mean, sometimes you may just want to look at for the simplest solution. You know, it's the argument whether a C with a sharp 4 is called a Lydian chord in jazz, or whether we call it a C major with add sharp 4. I mean, which one do you prefer to say? It's up to you. In this case, the parallel triads over the top of the E flat, parallel moving triads over the top of that, I prefer to see it as texture on texture. And you'll notice that Debussy does a lot of this, and you'll save yourself a huge headache if you just look at possibly texture over texture. And that's the way I prefer to see it, and it's just a suggestion. But if you want to name everything a chord, that's up to you. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on how Lydian can sound. It could sound dreamy, it could sound comical like The Simpsons, it could sound majestic, almost sometimes like a over the top, happier or more triumphant than major. But you notice the mixing of major and Lydian is a good combo for that sound. So I tried to cover as many bases as possible here, and excuse me if I didn't play some parts exact. I'm trying to avoid the whole YouTube thing of like flagging stuff if you play something. They're weird like that, and I found that out the hard way. So, and secondly, this is just a music theory composing channel, not piano channel. So, and if you want to learn how to play stuff exact, I would suggest going to a piano channel, because I'm not going to do that stuff here. So basically just analyzing the bare bones of something and creating. So that's what this is about.